And finally, the last video of this sliding into accessibility series with PowerPoint. This is our moment of truth. We're going to use the E for evaluate, and we're going to see how we did. And note that I left some errors for us to process through by looking at the accessibility checker. So the accessibility checker, again, is in the review tab of the ribbon. We call this a ribbon. And we would select check accessibility. So when I'm going to check accessibility, I can see some differences, errors and warnings. Errors are things that absolutely need to be checked and fixed, and usually there's some instructions on how to do that. Warnings are things that PowerPoint has detected that may or may not be actual errors. So we're going to look at the alt text. So alt text, I need to add a description of this image if I would feel that it is valuable for our learners. And I do think that this image is valuable, but it's a little bit complicated for me to think of the alt text. So I would go ahead, I'm not going to suggest a description for me because PowerPoint's still working on that skill. Instead, what I would actually do is I would copy this image and paste it into an AI tool. And when I do that, I can add, I would request alt text and I would tell it that I am talking about accessibility and PowerPoint style. Okay, so I just wanted to show my prompt very quickly. So I ask for alt text for this image, but I also let it know with apparently very bad spelling what I'm looking for, because alt text for an image is only as good as it matching your context. So I pasted the image in and then I can edit from here. It gives me a pretty good overview that I can cut and paste into my document and then edit. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I have to select it and I'm going to look at that and view and decide whether it is relevant. So it looks like it's telling me all about the structures and formatting that I would expect to see by adding this, which is actually a little bit more information than I would be placing on this slide. So I may want to shorten it because we don't need this information yet in this presentation. So I'm going to delete this section, make it a little bit shorter for my readers. Okay, so now that I've added the alt text, I can close this, and this item is done. And now I can go to this second alt text. Now this one is actually quite a bit more decorative. I added these just so we could make sure that we're all on the same page about what a layout is. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this one as decorative. I don't believe that it adds any value for any type of person who would need to listen to the additional description. Okay, so we also do want to process through some of these other errors. Missing audio and video. Like I mentioned before when we put in this video does have captions. This is something that we can safely ignore because I know that the captions are there. Hard to read text and contrast. Well, I was happy to see that this hard to read text and contrast is supposed to be hard to read text and contrast. So in this case, we're going to leave it here. It's going to continue to be an error, but I know what that error means. So if I look at the verify object order for this slide, this is actually a slide that I imported. So I usually tend to put the slide number first because I feel like it would be helpful if a slide has a number for them to say slide 8. And then I have the title, I have my body text, and body text is under the image in this case. So it actually may make sense here to have the image up above the body text. So I agree, and I'm going to change the order. Sometimes you will see that these don't get removed, and it's because the order is still somewhat up to your opinion. So for example, if I'm going to look at this item, I have the title. The slide number is below. I'd like it above. I have text about slide, and then I have all of the items in slide. And so I am satisfied that they are in the order I'd like them to be. So I'm going to close the reading order pane. And you'll go through that for each of the documents and just make sure that the reading order is the way it is for a reason and that you believe that the reading order should be that way. Because in some cases, so for example, this is, questionable. Where should this marker that I'm just using so that we stay on the same page go? I'm actually going to move it up under title. I agree, and I would continue to process this way to finish my accessibility check of this document. The last thing to know about publishing an accessible document is that if you are publishing this document and exporting it, it is best to export it using the export features rather than, say, print as a PDF. So if I were to use the print tool instead and select print as PDF, I'm not going to get all of the alt text and all of the work that I've done. So instead, I want to export, and I can export using any of these different features, but I want to make sure that I export it correctly so that it stays as accessible as I've made it. And that is it for our series on Slide and PowerPoint and Word.